Okie dokie then. Welcome everyone to our PEARS Sustainability training, our PEARS Sustainability Module training. All right. So just a little housekeeping before we dig in. Today we'll be providing a brief presentation touching on the purpose of this module, some logistics, etc. Then we'll move into a live demo of the module. And then finally, our plan is to leave plenty of time at the end of our session today for Q&A. As always, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat at any time. All right, without further ado, then let's get started. The Sustainability Module is a custom module in PEARS that NPI has designed with the purpose of capturing federal fiscal year 26 efforts by LHDs to sustain and or transition nutrition and PA programming in their jurisdiction. So let's talk logistics. Starting with the who should be reporting in this module? Now, the answer to this question is every LHD. Each LHD will complete one singular entry for FFY 26, not two, not three, just one singular entry. So our expectation is that the submission should be coordinated by LHD staff, not a subcontractor. And because the information solicited in this module is high level, it is likely that collaboration across staff will be necessary in order to answer some of the questions. Moving on to the when, moving on to the what rather, the single entry that each LHD will submit is intended to summarize jurisdiction level sustainability activities, such as the train the trainer and funding application activities. We'll dig into more specifics on these later. Finally, the when, this module went live in PEARS on February 2nd. So folks have from now through March 31st to finalize their entries.
Okay, so I'm going to take over from Summer now and talk a little bit more detailed information. So more or less, there are 5 steps to getting this completed. You are doing the first by being here today. So that is to pay attention to our live demo to learn the details of completing the module. We do also have a printable version of the module that will be available that you can review later. And we will be posting that along with the recording from today. So if you prefer the demo version, that will be available in a recorded format, or you can use the printable version that is in the form of a job aid with screenshots. So you could share either of those if you have teammates who are not here today, or review either of them yourselves later. Identify a lead within your local health department if you have multiple staff, so that person can coordinate the one entry. And then that person will create the entry in PEARS. And if necessary, add collaborators. If you're familiar with PEARS, you should be familiar with that collaborators feature. All of the PEARS modules have it, and that will be true of the custom module as well. So collaborators are given permission to either review and edit PEARS entries. Then we will include sustainability module entries in our PEARS QA/QC review in March. So look out for any QA/QC issues that we have identified with your sustainability module entry, your one entry. And if needed, take any action that's identified there. And then finalize that entry no later than March 31st. So how is the module structured? There is a general information page. This is the same as every PEARS module. It's just that first page that has very general information. It has 2 required questions on it. The collaborators page that I just mentioned, there's nothing required there. The one optional question is just a matter of whether you do add any team members there as collaborators. And then there are pages that ask questions about train the trainer activities, applying for funding or identifying funding opportunities to sustain activities in your jurisdiction, and some questions about general sustainability activities. Each of these questions start with one required question. And in particular, the train the trainer and funding sections, the question is a yes or no question. And if you answer no, you continue to the next section without any other questions in that area. Basically, the question is, did you do anything in this realm? And if you say no, then you just continue. You have nothing more to do in that area. Beyond that, all of the questions in these sections are optional. So even if you do answer yes, there's no expectation that you complete it. The information there is information that MPI and CDPH are hoping that you will complete. Answering those questions will give us a much better sense of the activities that local health departments are doing around sustainability and transition, but again, not required. Okay, so this is really the same timeline information that Summer already mentioned, but just in a little bit more of a graphic format. This is the same timeline that we shared at the beginning of the year for PEARS reporting overall, except we slipped in this little green box to show when the sustainability module opened. So PEARS will close on March 31st, as has been planned all along. We just added this new little piece here with the sustainability module opening. April 30th is when all of your programming ends, as I'm sure you are all well aware. And we will continue on our team to clean PEARS data, which means that if you do realize at some point in April that there's something you want to add to your sustainability module programming, you can contact us during the month of April and we can update that entry. More information on data quality. I've already mentioned that we will be doing QA/QC activities for the sustainability module, along with all of the other PEARS entries that you are doing in your other modules. And that will happen in March. This is also the same timeline information that we shared at the beginning of the fiscal year. You can see we've already done one round of PEARS QA/QC sort of grayed out there in January. So our March QA/QC will happen on, or will be released on March 23rd. We will begin that review on March 15th. What that means is that ideally, you will have created your sustainability module entry by March 15th. Ideally, that is true across all of the PEARS modules. If you have as much data entered as possible by March 15th, that gives our team the best opportunity to review your entries and identify any potential data. When we release issue files on March 23rd, you have the best opportunity to fix any data quality issues before you finalize them, no later than March 31st, which is not only your final deadline for data entry, but also the deadline for resolving those QA/QC issues. And again, as I mentioned, the month of April, we will be active in finalizing any potential data cleaning, as well as available to you to contact us if you realize there's something that isn't quite right in your data because perhaps you anticipated some activity happening in April and it didn't, or you end up carrying out some activity in April that you didn't anticipate. Whatever it is, if something needs to be corrected in the data, just let us know and we will be available. And that will be at our usual email contact. You can see that email address here on this slide. But one thing that I want to mention, the entire module is built within a PEARS custom module builder feature, which when we started working in it, we anticipated, and Canopy, who operates PEARS, anticipated that this would be rolled out as a new feature. But their development of it was delayed. So we are operating within a beta testing environment, which is unfortunate. But we made an informed decision that this was the best route to go. They are not going to be able to roll out the fully featured custom module builder until late spring. So about the time that our program wraps up. For a variety of reasons, we felt this was the best decision, including that all of you have access to pairs already. You have access to your data in pairs. CDPH has access to your data in pairs. Whereas if we were to go the route of, say, building out a survey in Qualtrics, none of you would be able to access your data. CDPH wouldn't. NPI would be the only people who would be able to get to the data itself. And we didn't like that. So we decided to go this route, even though there are some bugs. One of those bugs is that we had fully built out display logic so that, for example, when you answer certain questions certain ways, you would be directed to see certain things and not have to see others. And we had to roll some of that back, which makes your experience a little bit less customized than we had wanted. So that's unfortunate, but we think it still works pretty well. We do occasionally see, and I mean very occasionally, see some minor glitches. Nothing that we think should really make this anything learning. And when I say minor glitches, I've occasionally hit save, for example, at the end of a page, and gotten a page that comes up that is an error. Seen that twice. And I've been in this system a really lot of times. So maybe out of 50 or 60 times I've loaded a page and gotten this error. When I've reloaded it, it's gone away. So when I say don't panic, I mean do things like reload the page, and it'll almost certainly come back and be just fine. However, if you do experience a glitch that's persistent and doesn't reload or something like that, please do feel free to contact Canopy. And I'm asking that you also CC us on any emails that you send to them so that we're aware of these glitches, because particularly in this beta environment, it's really good for us to know that these problems are happening. So this is what we would like you to do if you come across these glitches. Anyway, do not anticipate it being any kind of a big deal. But I did want to be fully transparent about that being the situation. So in addition to those situations, do please feel free to contact us if you have any other TA questions going forward anytime about how to complete your entries. And we will also be available for office hours that were already scheduled. Hopefully some of you already had these on your calendars. But if not, go ahead and mark this down for Wednesday, March 25th, which is after we will be releasing the next QA/QC issue files. If you've already forgotten from that slide before, those will be released on Monday, March 23rd. Okay. So without further ado, we will be moving into the demo portion. I know a few questions have popped up in chat, and I think folks have been working to answer those. Were there any things that we should pause before we go into the demo to answer?
Carolyn, I think one question warrants an out loud response. Ashley asks, in April, will LHDs receive the final data set for their records?
I don't believe there are any plans for us to export data and send to LHDs. I don't know if the question is more along the lines of whether we will be producing something like the toolkit data sets. That is definitely not something we have capacity to produce like we have in the past. We no longer have the data analyst on staff who did those in the past. Um, so that's not something that we'll be able to do. The pairs data itself is something that LHDs can actually export from pairs. And I can probably at the end of this, if someone else does not have that handy to put in chat, there are actually guides on the CDSS pairs website that maybe Janice or Nikki can easily get to those. Um, there are guides that walk you through how to export and use the data from pairs. So that would be my best suggestion. If you need one-on-one TA on that, that's also something you're welcome to email us and we can help. But for the sake of everyone that's on the call today, I would recommend someone pop into chat those guides. But again, like we we are happy to walk folks through that as well. And I will let someone continue to answer questions in chat so I can move on to the demo. Okay, so this is the screen that you see in pairs when you first open it up and have no entries, which I have no fiscal year 26 entries. To navigate to the sustainability module, we'll go to the engage menu, which is where most of the modules are. And you will see it here at the very bottom. Like it says, to get started, create a record. I am having a bit of a slow time loading today, so we will have to be a little bit patient. A few of the things that are limited in building this custom module. This instruction here goes with this field here, but I was unable to move it. So just keep in mind that this instruction for name goes with this field. So we are going to name it after a hypothetical county today called ABC County. And I'm going to leave the unit as California, but when you're creating this, you're going to select your specific jurisdiction. Since we don't have one that is actually called ABC County, I'll just leave it like that. Select save and continue to move forward. And then if you have any other folks in your jurisdiction that you want to help you complete this, this is where you would add them. So I am going to add Summer. And I want, select her, and I want her to have view and edit access. You can also select this button. It's not necessary, but you can. In terms of the functionality of the person being able to view and edit the entry, this piece here about view and edit is what's most important. Save and continue to move to the next page. Okay. So now we're getting into the part where, like I said, we only get this first question. And then depending on how we answer it, we either move ahead to the next page or we get more. This is where the display logic actually does work. But once we get deeper into the page, unfortunately, it doesn't work very well. So I'm going to work through some scenarios with all of you that I want to say up front may not reflect a typical jurisdiction's experience this year. I've built out these scenarios to help us work through these modules or these sections of this module in a fairly comprehensive way. So please do not think that we expect that this scenario is realistic or that we expect you to be living up to anything resembling this scenario. This scenario is purely hypothetical, um, just so that we can fill out the fields in this module. So um, don't just know that is what we're doing here is really just trying to work through fields in a pairs module and not this is not aspirational in any way. So we are going to say yes to this question, but first I'm going to read the scenario off to you, and as we go through, I'm going to ask you guys to sort of think about the scenario and how we're going to fill out what we're going through. So ABC County hosted official catch trainers and invited several partner organizations, including YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, PE staff from a school district, and after-school PA leads from the County Parks and Rec Department. Their intent was to develop a cadre of trainers who can then go on to train staff at different organizations and settings to lead catch-based PA. Separately, the county also has a nutrition pantry program that includes adult education with the Food Smarts curriculum. So as part of their transition planning, they had a local promotora group join their Food Smarts workshops to be trained on the curriculum so that they would be able to deliver classes in the future. Just going to go ahead and assume that you can all figure out that our answer to this is yes, there were train the trainer sessions offered to any partners during the current reporting year. Oh, you get more questions. Were these sessions associated with select all that apply, PSE, DE, and other? And go ahead and stick some answers in the chat. Tell me what you think we should be answering to this question. You see a mix of PSC and DE. So we are going to select both. This is where ideally we would have had more display logic. I did not want these questions below to appear until we selected those boxes, but we could not make that work. So this set of questions, if we mark PSE, we will answer the PSE questions. If we mark DE, we will answer the DE questions. If you don't mark these, feel free to skip ahead to the save button. So just know that if you don't mark these, you do not need to continue with the questions below. If you mark other and you don't mark PSE or DE, you do not have any questions below either. This question is marked, bolded, and with a star, meaning it is a required question. So if you have answered yes, that there were train the trainer sessions offered, you will need to select something here. The rest are optional, regardless of what you put here. If you mark PSE, we would like you to complete this PSE section, but it is optional. It is not required. And with DE, we would like you to complete the DE questions, but they are optional. They are not required. For today's purposes, we are going to continue. I'm going to breeze back through the scenario and let you fill me in a little on what you think should go in here. In terms of PSE. So again, for catch, they trained. So think about PSE partner organizations trained, and you can think about this for DE too, so you can kind of put the answers in at the same time. So for catch, they trained YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, PE staff from one school district, and after-school physical activity leads from the County Parks and Rec Department, with the intent to develop a cadre of trainers who can go on to train staff at different organizations to lead catch-based physical activity. The Nutrition Pantry program includes adult education with the Food Smarts curriculum, and they trained a promotora group in Food Smarts workshops to train them on the curriculum to deliver classes in the future. So, how many organizations were trained to do PSE and how many organizations were trained to do DE? This seems to be a stumper. A lot of counting for me to do out loud, I know. Vanessa hit on the correct answer for the most part. So they are all doing DE, and the catch ones are also PSE. And it is a total of 5. So Shonda has that part correct. So 5 for DE and 4 for PSE. So we're going to put that in. So hopefully you are starting to catch on to why this is sort of a coordinated effort among staff. And most of the work of this may happen outside of pairs. You just need to kind of gather your information together and then go into pairs and fill it out. Filling out the pairs module is probably not going to take you very long. It's really going to be a matter of thinking, what train the trainer activities did we do and with whom? Okay. These settings here, and there are a few more. Hold on, I need to get rid of the chat. I can't see what I'm doing. PSE settings included. I'm not going to make you think through all of these, but we had schools, we had before and after school, we had food assistance sites with the Nutrition Pantry program. We had parks, and we had a community and recreation center. What about what groups will be served with the training? And again, we're asking this in relation to PSE, which is really only the catch training. And then we're asking this in relation to DE, which is both.
Carolyn, did you mean to do the food assistance one for PSE setting?
I did not. Good catch. Would Janice or Summer read out the chat to me so I can keep this menu up? Because if I go to chat, it hides.
Totally. So we have a response that says school-aged, general adults, possibly older adults.
Yeah, so for PSE, our only target group would be school-age children because it's only the catch. For DE, I agree that it is school-age children, general adults, and possibly older adults. I'm going to go ahead and mark it because I think if we are talking about a sustained nutrition pantry program over time, at some point we're going to be reaching older adults. Okay, I'm going to stay down here on the DE to talk about the topics. So which of these topics were addressed and we'll be thinking about catch and the food smarts workshops now. Um, so across the combination of the two.
I think we're stumped, Carolyn. Or sleepy.
Okay. Well, it's not really supposed to be a test of your knowledge of curricula, so it's fine.
Wait, we have an answer.
The first three, question mark?
Um,
And then
Jenna nailed it.
another.
So for DE, these curricula combined would cover nutrition PA and food nutrition security. Um, for PSC by itself, we're just going to mark physical activity because catch in terms of what it does as a PSC does not cover the nutrition component, although the curriculum does. And we're not talking about the food smarts or the nutrition pantry components for PSC here. Um, I'm going to leave some of these questions blank, even though we could fill them out, because I don't really intend to spend all of our time comprehensively answering this in terms of a demo. But I just want to note that it's the exact same set of questions for PSC and DE, but our answers are a little bit different because the two sets of train the trainer activities were not the same for this jurisdiction, right? Catch as PSC and catch as DE are not the same. And the nutrition pantry program, Train the Trainer, was really just addressing DE. They went in um, to help deliver DE, but they were not really doing Train the Trainer in relation to the nutrition pantry program, if that makes sense. So we didn't really address nutrition pantry as a PSC. It was really just helping them deliver food smarts workshops in the future. So we are now going to move on to our next section of the module. Whoops, I hit save and not save and continue. So I'm going to go over here and click on the section. And we are back to this singular question. And if I were to answer no, that would be all we get. So now we are asked if our LHD has participated in efforts to identify or apply for funding to sustain community nutrition and physical activity programming within the jurisdiction. And this help text here is really important. There's a lot of detail in it, so I want to draw your attention to it. So this is very broad. There are a lot of ways that you could potentially be prompted to answer yes to this. So we want you to include any collaborative efforts that involve your partnerships or your coalitions, as well as efforts related to using or raising funds through taxes or bonds. So for example, a soda tax that may have been passed in your jurisdiction. So any of those sorts of scenarios, go ahead and say yes here. And you see lots of things appear. If the reason you said yes is a tax and bond measure, you have one single question to complete. And if that is the only reason you said yes, then that's it. So you would answer this first tax and bond measure question, which is just a text box for you to do a bit of description. And then you would scroll to the bottom, save and continue. Our given scenario here does not include that, so we're actually going to skip past that. So I'm going to scroll a little bit and we're going to start here for our scenario. And I'm going to go ahead and Shonda asks if you should put NA in the box or leave it blank. Because these are optional questions, you're welcome to leave them blank, but an NA in the box would make it very clear to us when we're interpreting your data that it was not applicable. So feel free to put NA there if you would like. So here is our scenario for funding. And I want to remind you that if your answer to this entire question is no, or if you have applied for funding and been denied, which is very, very common, please do not feel like you're doing anything wrong. Again, these scenarios have been created to give us the opportunity to fill in boxes here, not to make anybody feel bad because you're not doing enough in your jurisdiction. So here is our scenario. So ABC County has successfully applied for funding from the California State Library's Lunch at the Library Summer Meals Program, through which they will receive $51,200 to create 2 community gardens, develop food pantries, and conduct nutrition education and STEM activities for youth at libraries in low-income qualifying areas. They have also set up a system to accept donor gifts, through which they received $2,100 on the big day of giving. In total, they have received $53,300 since last July. They have also applied for a $175,000 grant from the Allen Foundation and $500,000 for a federal farm-to-school grant, both of which are currently pending. Their jurisdiction, as I mentioned, has not enacted any taxes or bonds related to nutrition or physical. Need a drink of water, if you'll give me a moment. Okay. So you'll notice I mentioned since last July. So that date is noted here several times. Not all the way up at the top of the page, but here, consider applications submitted since July 1st, 2025, and it's noted again. We selected that date because that is approximately when HR 1 passed. We just felt that it was appropriate to limit the time frame that we're asking you about to the time that the program lost its funding. So that is when we're asking you to begin considering applications that have been submitted for sustainability funding. So the first question that we're asking is what role your local health department staff have actually taken in identifying and applying for funding opportunities. And there's a list here, and it is select all that apply. We'll include this in the funding scenario, so we're just going to pick a couple here. But I'm imagining in this scenario that for some of these bigger opportunities, that there was probably some collaboration with partners. But for the big day of giving, that this was probably like a lead. It's not really an application. Actually, we're going to select other for that, right? Because there's no actual application. So I think that's an other. And for the library program, they researched it and they led it. So that's our answer there. And you open there for a moment just in case there are any questions about those items. I just want to let you guys see that. Before I continue on to the rest of the questions, we considered this to be a key question in this section, which is why, as you see, it is marked as required. If nothing in this menu of options is considered to be relevant to your LHD staff. If you think our staff did nothing here, then we would like you to just select other. We neglected to include a none of the above option until it was too late. We could edit it at this point, but unfortunately, one of the bugs is that while we have the ability to edit the module and republish it, there is difficulty with moving pre-existing entries that you folks have created, and we do have a couple of entries that have been created. We need to migrate them from one version that's been published to the next, and there's a difficulty with doing that right now. So we have opted instead to instruct you, if your answer here is none of the above, that you instead should select other. So just know, if your response here is none of the above, please select other. And if it's the case, then you can skip the remaining questions. Again, like I said before, just scroll down to the bottom and select Save and Continue. If you do select any of these, researching, leading, collaborating, advising, coordinating, then what we would like you to do, or even for that matter, if you select other, but it is a meaningful other, like that donor gift one that I was talking about, please do continue with the rest of the questions on this page. So we're going to do that for our scenario now. So we have our next question, which is the types of organizations that we have either successfully gotten funding from or we have pending applications from. So in our scenario, we successfully applied for funds from the California State Library, and we have pending and from donor gifts. And we have pending applications with the Allen Foundation and a federal grant, federal farm to school grant. So which of the options here would you select on behalf of ABC County? And Summer, would you read me off what comes through chat so I can leave the menu open, please?
Absolutely. And I do want to do a quick time check just because, so we might streamline a little bit of the call and response.
Okay, I will do that after this one.
We don't have anything in the chat, but I can give it a shot with my recollection. I know we had the donor for the big day of giving. We have government. Oh, we're getting some responses. The top three.
Is correct. So donor for the big day of giving, government for both the California State Library and for the Farm to School, and then the Allen Foundation would be a private foundation. So level of government, we have the California State Library, which again is a successful funded application, and then federal government is a pending application. We do not need to identify here which they are. You're going to mark whether they were successful or not. You're going to mark both. Then if you have either successful or pending funding applications, we have a spot for either one for foundations. So go ahead and fill in here. The Allen Foundation was a pending. Whoopsie, typo. Then there's questions here about topic areas addressed by grants or funds. So we have nutrition for the summer meals program and some of the others also. I don't think any of them do physical activity, which are the only other options. And then other, I'm going to just leave nutrition there. And then specific issues. So I'm going to say summer meals, food access, because we had a food pantry, gardens, farm to school. And then we have this menu here. So we mentioned direct education in one, gardens and food pantries are PSE. I didn't really hear any partnership, coalition building, or training and technical assistance. They may very well include them, but at least as our scenario was described, I didn't hear that. So I'm going to leave that off for now. Our dollar amounts, we had 53,000 roughly that has been funded. And then 500,000 or more is pending. And that is the section completed. Our last section, the required question here, there's no display logic because this one's not a yes, no scenario. Our only required question here asks about how much, so very much ballpark, about how much of the nutrition and physical activity programming previously supported by CalFIRST Healthy Living will continue during the first year after funding ends. And we recognize that this is a weird way of asking in terms of that first year because it's not the federal fiscal year, it's not the state fiscal year, it's probably not anything relevant to your local fiscal year, but it is the first year after we lose funding. So starting May 1st, after that April 30th end date, think forward a year. And I'm going to think about the scenario that we've just worked through with these train the trainers, the funding that's already been acquired. I'm thinking that this is probably a medium-sized LHD and that this is probably somewhere less than half of their programming. There's probably more going on than what we've heard about, but I'm just guessing. And then I'm not going to fill in answers to the rest of these questions, but we're just going to scroll through and look to see what they are. So will the LHD continue to serve a leadership role in coordinating nutrition and physical activity in the jurisdiction, such as through a CNAP? Not necessarily. Has the LHD provided written guidance to partner organizations about sustaining, transitioning, or closing out CalFIRST Healthy Living? We assume there's been some kind of guidance, but we're asking here about written, and you can select any or all. There's also a prompt below if you have, and it'll show up here if you select one, to consider attaching guidance documents. There is an opportunity to upload relevant documents at the bottom. Question here about capacity for data and evaluation activities to support future nutrition and PA programming. So if you will not have any future nutrition and PA programming, that is an option here. But if you will have any future nutrition and PA programming implemented by your local health department, think about whether there will be any gaps in your staff time or other resource capacity for data and evaluation activities to support those things. And this is a mark all that applies question. And then there's an opportunity for you to describe sustainability or transition activities that we're not capturing. So in this text box will expand much bigger than what you see here. So it looks small, but you can fill in more than it looks like if you would like. Um, and then an opportunity for you to tell us anything. Um, this is very much optional. This is really just here because we recognize that we don't know what we don't know. So we wanted to give you an opportunity to comment on anything related. So that is there. And then finally, a file upload. So it may be that written guidance document, but it could also be, you know, any other documents related to sustainability and transition efforts that you think might be helpful to us or to CDPH, and understanding the work that you've been doing this year. And I can leave this up so that I can move around within the module and show anything else and take any questions.
So it looks like we're caught up in the chat. So if folks have questions that they'd like to vocalize, please feel free to raise your hand or come off mute at this time. We have about 5 minutes left before the hour, so please. Oh. While folks mull and think, I just want to reiterate that we will be posting the recording of this demo. And as Carolyn mentioned, we have developed a Word document printable, or rather PDF printable of the contents of this module, which may be helpful in planning and collecting all of that information if your team prefers that over working that out in pairs. And we do plan to have those released back to you folks by the end of the week. So we will send those out via our listserv. Thank you,
Lots of thank yous. You're
everyone.
very welcome. Hopefully this is feeling doable, and we've tried to keep it as useful but also unburdensome.
And thank you all for all of your wonderful sustainability work you're doing in your local jurisdictions. All right, at this time, I will stop the recording.